federal judge has permanently blocked Donald Trump from deploying the National Guard to Portland. This is a win because the Constitution and the founding documents of this nation are keeping and preventing overreach from the executive branch into other areas of the country. That is excellent news, and I'm very excited, and you should be excited about this too. This is a win for the Constitution. This is a win for state sovereignty. This is a win for checks and balances. It's one of those situations where we are happy to see that the government, that the checks and balances are doing what they're supposed to do. It says here the President Donald Trump was permanently blocked from sending the National Guard to Portland by U.S. District Court Judge Karen Immergut. She delivered her final order in the case yesterday. The case centered around whether ongoing protests outside the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement building in the city warrant a National Guard deployment. In her ruling, she acknowledged that violent protests did occur, but that law enforcement was able to address them. She says since that brief span of a few days in June, the protests outside the Portland ICE facility have been predominantly peaceful, with only isolated and sporadic instances of relatively low-level violence, largely between protesters and counter-protesters, the judge wrote in her 106-page order. Now, I did read extensively, by the way, from the last order that we had, and it was, I think it was about 38 pages, so obviously nowhere near the size or scope of this one that she issued yesterday. It's 106 pages. You can find it. I would like to read through this as well, not on air, obviously. But she says that this court concludes that even giving great deference. So this court concludes that even giving great deference to the president's determination, the president did not have a lawful basis to federalize the National Guard. The permanent injunction went into effect immediately. Now this is great for multiple reasons. Setting aside whether or not you think that what's happening in Portland merits the National Guard or for Trump to pull up the Insurrection Act, whether or not you believe that what's happening out there justifies this, okay? Let's take that for a moment and just set it over here. We'll put a pin in it. Just set it over here for a moment. Even if we're not even thinking about that, this is a win because the Constitution and the founding documents of this nation are keeping and preventing overreach from the executive branch into other areas of the country. That is excellent news, and I'm very excited, and you should be excited about this too. We're watching something like this happen. So Donald Trump, who and we talked, I want to bring this back up just to familiarize everybody with this and to remind you of what this is. This is U.S. Code 12406. This is the National Guard service call. So this is what happens. That these are the stipulations. All right. The last time I covered this, I don't know if I was as clear in stating this. So I want to be very clear when I state this. In USC, in the United States Code 12406. So United States Code 12406, National Guard in federal service. So whenever, now these are or situations. It's not and, it is or situations. So the first one is the United States or any of the commonwealths or possessions is invaded or is in danger of invasion by a foreign nation. If China lands on the shores of California, Trump is activating the National Guard. All right, I understand that. Or whomever the president is has the authority to authorize the National Guard. Or there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. And that's very important to note there as well. If there's a danger of rebellion, not against the government of Portland, not against the government of Oregon, but against the government of the United States. If there is a danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States, that is a reason for Donald Trump or whomever the president is That is a reason for the president to federalize the National Guard. Or the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Now, those who push law and order over constitutional fidelity will see this and either become enraged, or they will push to try to cram in what's happening in these areas into one of these three stipulations. And again, this is an or situation. It's not an and. Not all of these things have to happen. There are three very specific things: invasion, rebellion, inability to execute laws of the United States. Or, right? 1, 2, 3, or. If none of those stipulations are met, how does the president federalize the National Guard? How does the president make action? What does the president do? The president has to go to Congress the way it should be. The president has to go to Congress. He doesn't have unilateral authority to make decisions like this, especially against U.S. citizens. And this is a huge win for the Constitution, because if this is happening by a Trump-appointed judge, which is a great thing, especially in this circumstance, you can't claim that it's a leftist loony. You can't claim that they're anti-MAGA. You can't claim that they're against America. You can't claim that they're a liberal activist judge. She is a Trump-appointed judge, and she is looking at the circumstances that are happening in Portland. She's looking at what the president's powers are, and she's making a ruling that says, sorry, you can't do this. She's a hero. A hero for the Constitution. She's a hero for Portland. She's a hero for the United States. And it's not because the ruling is against Trump. I would be pushing for this ruling against any other president who decided to use media reports or social media or truth reports or whatever it was to make a determination that they're going to send the National Guard. And even in this story, there were several times that Donald Trump made statements like this. The city of Portland and the states of Oregon and California sued in late September after President Trump announced on social media that he would provide all necessary troops to protect the city he described as war-ravaged. So the president describes Portland, Oregon as war-ravaged and under siege. That is an overstatement. That is an overstatement. It takes it way beyond the pale. It's not under siege. It's not war ravaged. War ravaged is what Israel does to Hamas. Little giggle there. The war ravaged, actually, let me be specific. I said Hamas. I should have said that war ravaged is what Israel does to Palestine. Now, some will call that a Freudian slip. We'll talk about that later. But war ravaged is a destroyed area. But it actually, I mean, like you've seen pictures and you've seen news coverage of war ravaged areas. That's not what Portland looked like. So what the judgment did here, what the judge did is the judge said these protests, which did get violent back in June, they were quelled by the existing law enforcement officers. They were taken care of. Nothing outside the scope of that. It's not war ravaged. It is not. It's not under siege. Mr. President, according to the United States Code and according to the United States Constitution, you don't have the authority to do what you're doing. You need to go to Congress. And if the Congress says, you know what, we believe that it does require, then there you go. Have at it.